Hello, this is attorney Marc Lopez, and I have with me my good friend, Jamison Allen. I have a huge announcement. Jamison is practicing law with us, and he is taking over the firm's personal injury department. Yes, we have a personal injury department here, and we've been helping people who have been injured in various kinds of cases, car crashes, slip and falls for years. And we've loved helping individuals out like that. And I decided that, we really need to focus and expand on that. And so I was so lucky Jamison has agreed to join the firm. And Jamison, say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be part of this firm, and I'm so excited to be working with my friend Mark. So much respect for Attorney Lopez. He responds to his clients. He fights for his clients. It really is a great member of the legal community.
So I have been a lawyer since 2006, and at the first firm I worked at, I was doing plaintiff's personal injury full time as a law clerk for a number of years, and as an attorney. It was my first law job. And I met Jamison, and Jamison is legitimately a good guy. And, he legitimately cares about his clients. This is really interesting, but Jamison and we've actually had a chance to do trials together, jury trials. Now, we're going back quite a bit, 2007, 2008, but that's how long I've known him. And I trust this man with my absolute everything. He is a legit attorney. And my only concern with hiring Jamison is people are going to talk to him and be like, oh, Mark, we like him way more than we like you. And, I'm okay with that. He's a good dude. Jamison, tell me in your own words, what is personal injury?
Personal injury law allows people to put their lives back together. When you end up in car accident, victim of a slip and fall, or perhaps the victim of someone else's poor decision, even medical malpractice, you need somebody to fight for you. And personal injury has given me an opportunity to help so many people, help them get lost wages back, help them get their medical bills paid when they didn't know what was going to happen, how they were going to be able to afford it, and of course get compensation as well for what they went through.
When I started the Marc Lopez law firm in 2009, after leaving the prosecutor's office, the game plan was for this law firm to be doing plaintiff's personal injury. And the reason why I wanted to focus on that when I started was I absolutely hated insurance companies. And, people get into accidents on no fault of their own. Your rear-ended snowplow company puts the snow in a way that person can't see the curb. Semi-truck broadside somebody on 65. I mean, these are cases that I dealt with, and these are legit injuries people had. And these insurance companies were like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Oh, you don't need a full 100% mobility in your arm. You don't need all your fingers on your hand. Hey, having a foot in a cast for a year and a half, 2 years, not a big deal. And, we were really lucky to work at a law firm where they took cases to trial and where they allowed us to fight for cases.
Absolutely. And so you and I had our skills, forged in fire, going to trial together and taking several cases to the doorsteps of the courthouse. But there's so many people who just do not realize what their rights are, and do not realize how they're being mistreated. Let me just give you a quick example that I still talk about with even close friends and family. When they say, do I really need an attorney if I'm just made a claim with my own insurance company? They're my own insurance company, right? I've known my agent for 17 years. I've had this claim. They fixed my roof, 10 years ago, et cetera. But when it comes to personal injury, insurance companies treat it much differently than they do property damage claims. And you always have to remember that your insurance company is not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for their own best interest. And people get in trouble when they don't talk to an attorney, or if they get an attorney who's afraid to try a case. Like you mentioned, we were so lucky to be at a firm that tried cases, and took some cases that other attorneys did not accept because of the work that would be involved. And when an insurance company sees that, they know they're going to have a fight on their hands, and it makes a difference.
Jamison, you made an excellent statement right there. I've had friends that get into accidents or, slip and falls, and they're like, Mark, why do I have to hire an attorney? The insurance adjuster is being so pleasant. I'm pretty sure I can negotiate around them. They seem like a real pushover. I'm not even worried about dealing with them. And just like you said, this is their job. And they know that if they lull you into this false sense of security, they act like they're aloof or they act like they're your friend, you're more likely to stay with them and not call an attorney. And they know for a fact, once an attorney is involved in an injury case, typically the insurance company settles for way more than they would if an attorney had not been involved. So they want to be your and to be your friend. They want to try to keep the attorney out of the equation.
You hit it right on the head there when you said that people have that trust with the adjuster and they're lulled into a sense of confidence. So the adjuster they'll say things oftentimes like, well, go ahead and get an attorney. You're not going to get any more money. In fact, you're going to have to pay an attorney X percentage. And so you're going to end up with less. And this is all we're ever going to pay, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people either don't know any better, they trust it, or they just get intimidated by the situation. And they'll just take whatever's offered. But there are times, as you mentioned, that people trust the insurance company, or they're dealing even with someone else's insurance company, but they've been talking to the adjuster and they made the mistake of talking to the adjuster, and the adjuster has that type of Starbucks coffee shop feel. That's part of their strategy, is to make you feel like you're at a coffee shop just talking about life. Oh, this person wants to help me. And based on that trick, they often get people to take much less than what the law says they're entitled to. And just give you a quick example. I had it almost exactly that same situation last year, where someone had dealt with the insurance company and was willing to take $5,000 in their pocket for their injury. The insurance company didn't want to pay it. That person then would have been willing to take even about $4,000, but the insurance company only wanted to pay about $2,000 or $3,000. So he ended up hiring me, and then within a few months, we had a settlement of $25,000, which forced the insurance company to pay a lot more than what they could have. And of course, our client ended up in a much better position. And so these type of problems happen all the time. And if he would not have reached out and retained an attorney, he never would have known. And so, there are so many ways in which the insurance companies have the edge. They're holding more cards, and the cards you have, they often know what you have. And so, for many reasons, getting an attorney is essential, at least talking to one and finding out, asking questions. So my advice to clients includes, several do's and do nots. But one of these is, if at all possible, do not talk to the insurance adjuster at the beginning. You could talk to the adjuster about property damage, but anything you tell the adjuster in regards to your medical bills, in regards to treatment, or about the crash itself can be used against you later, or twisted and manipulated later. The other mistake that people make is thinking that if you just turn over the medical records, that the insurance company will do the right thing. But the information, they're going to want to look at that information and use it for their selective purposes. And so for me, we always give free consultations. And even for someone who is injured, whose circumstances do not make it wise to proceed with an injury case, it's still always wise to speak to an attorney, because there are a lot of times there are legal issues that you don't even realize. There are things you can do and things you can make sure you avoid doing that can have a significant impact upon the outcome of a potential case.
You mentioned that people can talk to their property damage adjuster, and that's something they can do, and that's not necessarily going to 100% risk their case. But is it your opinion that an attorney should probably be facilitating that? Because what they say to the property damage can still be used against them for the injury claim. Am I right?
Yes, sometimes at least. It can be used against them. Yes, there is the danger. So a good point in regards to property damage. You might be able to speak to the adjuster about property damage, but first there needs to be the understanding that you're only talking about what's the address of the auto body shop that I need to take my car to. What is the Kelly Blue Book value for this vehicle? What was the purchase price of these alloy wheels on the vehicle to make it more valuable? Those are the types of questions that speaking to an adjuster about, if there's already an agreement in place not to talk about the personal injury case, that a plaintiff can speak to the insurance company about without any real concern about negative effect. However, if you give a recorded statement of any kind about how the crash occurred, about your injuries, about medical expenses, about things that you said or things that you thought, or at what time period you thought you might be injured, etc. All of that can come back and be used against you in a personal injury case. And another point, general warning I give to friends and family, is that you might not realize you're injured immediately. There are numerous injuries, for example, a rotator cuff tear, where someone might think they just have a slightly sore shoulder from the seatbelt grabbing and locking up, and it's going to pass in a week or two, but it actually gets worse. And you have radicular symptoms, nerve damage, et cetera, all types of possibilities that require treatment, potential surgery. And if you do not take steps at the beginning to preserve your rights in that situation, you're going to have caused harm to your claim by the time you realize that you have a personal injury claim, that there is a reason to proceed. And so it's always wise to speak to an attorney about any potential claim that you have, because you don't know what the future is going to hold. And if I may offer one other quick piece of advice, there's a misconception people have that if you have a personal injury case, that you have 2 years to file the lawsuit. Therefore, we can just wait and talk to an attorney 16 months from now, 18 months from now, if you need to. So as I alluded to before, that can be problematic because things that you say or don't say, or things you did or you didn't do in preservation of evidence, photographs, witness statements, et cetera, can have a negative effect on your case. But there's also additional deadlines. There's something in Indiana called the Indiana Tort Claims Act, which requires a special communication to a state entity, to a school, to a police department. Any public entity essentially requires a special notice that has to be sent as early as 180 days from the date of the injury and requires various information. And so if you have a case in which you think it's a clear case because someone ran a stop sign, well, you might find out later that the defendant is saying they ran that stop sign because the city didn't trim the trees like they should have. Now all of a sudden, your case could be gone because you didn't satisfy the deadlines. So I just bring that up as one of 100 or 1,000 possible complications that makes it really, really important to just speak to an attorney. And many personal injury attorneys have free consultation. So reach out to an attorney and make sure your rights are protected.
One of the things that, I don't think that I even understood until I was an attorney working personal injury cases is not every case, but every case involving an automobile is actually two claims. There's a property damage claim and there's an injury claim. The property damage claim is just like you would think. It's, hey, my car was hurt in the accident where I was injured. Attorneys, typically, including this firm, will handle the bodily injury complementary as part of the injury case. And the reason we do that, no attorney at this firm makes money handling property damage claims, but we are so concerned that you will say something to the adjuster while handling your property damage that it could get back to bite you in the injury case. So the example I have is, you're talking with the property damage adjuster, and he's like, "Oh, the bill is only $2,000. Okay, we'll send it on over there." That wasn't too big of a that wasn't too bad of an accident, was it? And the person, not trying to be a jerk, "Oh yeah, I guess it wasn't that big of an accident." We don't want that to come bite them in the butt. And I had an adjuster send me a recorded statement when I was a young attorney. "Oh, hey, Mark, you're wanting money, big money now," but he even said, "Hey, it wasn't that big of a deal." But like Jamison said, when you're in an accident, sometimes you don't understand how injured you are until you get medical treatment. And so just be careful talking to the insurance adjuster. I mean, it's a minefield, and they are not your friends. Jamison, you've been an attorney for 18 years, with a lot of that focusing on plaintiff's personal injury. What are the top 5 mistakes people are making when they get in accidents? And these mistakes are getting in the way of them getting their life back on track. So give us those top 5.
Sure. Most important one is not speaking to an attorney, not going and getting a free consultation. And so find out what your legal rights are. That's a big mistake. So the second one would be, which we also mentioned, in speaking to the insurance company, speaking to the adjuster. And in that, don't give a recorded statement. Don't give a recorded statement even if another party has hired an attorney. That should be a pretty big clue. If the other driver has hired an attorney and that attorney's office has hired someone to talk to an attorney, there should be red flags going off at that point. I'd say a third one is not following medical advice or not getting prompt medical treatment. Fair or not, with an insurance company, you're danged if you do and danged if you don't. If you get the treatment, they can make arguments, the arguments they always make. But if you don't get treatment, if you don't do what your doctor says, then your claim is going to be in trouble, because there's what's called in Indiana law a duty to mitigate your damages. You have to follow the orders of your doctor. So if your doctor sets you up to go to a specialist, you don't really want to go, but then a month or 2 or 3 later, you finally go because it's not gotten any better. The insurance company is going to say there must have been something in that month or 2 or 3 that happened that caused the problem, because if you were in such bad shape, why didn't you follow your doctor's advice? So follow your doctor's advice. Along with that, the next one would be to avoid sketchy medical providers. And by sketchy medical providers, if there's someone who has found out that a medical provider has found out that you've been injured, you've been in an accident, and reaches out to you, that's probably not a good sign. If they make it sound like the insurance company has reached out to them and once it's going to pay for you to go get treatment with them, very, very likely not true. Virtually 100% not true. But they make it seem that way. When you go to these type of providers, they'll often be really eager to get your treatment to make money off of your case. They might even offer you free transportation, pick you up at your door and take you to and from the office. That's not a normal thing for a doctor to do. And insurance companies do not trust what these doctors are testifying to. So that's a big problem. Those type of doctors, those type of medical providers or chiropractors are not going to help your case. And in fact, they can actually hurt your case simply because of their involvement. And then for the last one, I would say it kind of ties into hiring an attorney, but it's the preservation of evidence. You don't have time later to get photographs from the scene of the crash. So if you're injured to the point where you need an ambulance, you might not be in a situation where you can get photographs then, but to the extent that evidence can be preserved, witnesses' names and contact information written down, All of that's very important and can be a big mistake. And along with that, people often assume that a police officer is going to write down everyone's information, is going to have everyone's phone number and email address, write down all the witnesses. Simply not true. Police officers have a lot to do, and most of them are not really eager to prepare reports for a crash, especially one in which they might not think someone was injured seriously. And so there are many times 7 witnesses to a crash, but the police officer only writes down 1. So if those names and phone numbers aren't written, very valuable evidence can be lost. So that's a handful of mistakes that people made, but nothing's more important, I think, than the first one, and finding out what your rights are and finding out if this is a situation where you need to do more.
This law firm, people call all the time. Hey, I got in an accident. I want to sue. We talk to people on the phone if they want to come in. They're not coming in so much during COVID. We're doing video. And, sometimes we'll talk to people like, hey, you don't really have a case. And, this isn't something you got to get an attorney involved in. But I applaud them. And it's my mission to make sure we talk to everybody that calls in here, because I don't want anyone thinking, well, my case isn't big enough for an attorney getting involved in, or I want to make sure people call and they get a value when they talk to us. So don't ever feel like you can't call an attorney.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's been my practice. I take pride in trying to help everyone who calls. If I know it's not going to be a case I'm able to help someone on, I don't just say, sorry, you're wasting my time, and then hang up on them. I try to explain to them, and in my experience, people understand. So if the situation where it doesn't make sense to hire an attorney, people aren't angry at us, and even if they are, I want to help everyone in that situation. And there's times when I'll tell people, this is the case you can take to small claims on your own, and here's a little bit of advice on how to do it. And what I think we do, what I know the way that you've practiced, it's the way that we practiced 12, 13 years ago, and since then, is that insurance companies take advantage of the circumstances. Any advantage that they think they can press, they will press it. And so if they can make people think, huge numbers, a large number of people think that their case isn't big enough, no attorney's going to talk to me, I'll just settle, the insurance companies going to make a whole lot of money that way by settling cases low. It helps injured people as a whole, and it's the right thing to do, and it makes society safer, which, in the end, that is the ultimate goal of tort law overall, is that make society safer. Because once you have the risk of claims, people change their behavior. It's true if we're talking about worksite injuries, cranes, tragic injuries where a crane topples over, that type of thing, as well as our behavior on the roads and highways. It's important that we do what we can to make society safer, but when an accident does happen, when someone is injured, that's when the law steps in, when we step in, and we do what we can to help the victim and their family.
Jamison, I'm going to reiterate your top 5 mistakes, though. The first one is a person getting in an accident, not talking to an attorney. It doesn't matter if you don't think your case is big enough. Call an attorney, get their opinion, and talk to someone you trust and know. The second mistake is talking to an adjuster or giving a recorded statement. Adjusters are not your friends. They're there to minimize the amount they pay out on any claim. That's their job. That's their full-time job. They receive specialty training on this. They're not your friend. That's a giant mistake that can be very difficult to overcome if you decide to hire an attorney later or try to pursue an injury case. The third mistake people get is not preserving the evidence. Now, just like you said, if someone's in an ambulance, no one expects them to pull out their cell phone and be like, hey, get some pictures before you take me away. No one's expecting that. But if you can, try to get friends or family to get names. Even if you see a police officer there, just like you said, officers, this is not what they signed up to be police officers for. They never said, I can't wait to go find and do paperwork for an accident case. And so they get there and they're doing their job, but this isn't the fun part about their job for them. And just like you said, we've had cases where there's 7, 8, 9, 10 witnesses. The officer lists one in his report. Or even worse, he'll mark down who caused the accident without talking to everybody. And that may not necessarily be fair. And it's not because they're bad officers. This is something they're doing as part of their job, but it's not the fun part of their job. And this is not why they went to law enforcement academy. The fourth issue, if I heard you right, is not getting treatment. So, sometimes we both had cases like this where you get a man, I'm going to be tough. I'm not hurt that bad. My back's hurt a little bit, but it'll go away. And so they don't go to the doctor for a week or two. And then, or they go to the doctor right away, then they don't do follow-up appointments. Just like you said, this is duty to mitigate. And if you're not going to the doctor right away, if you're missing appointments or you're skipping appointments or there's a gap, the insurance company under Indiana law says, well, you didn't do everything you're supposed to. You're not going to get full compensation because you are the problem. Get that medical treatment. Even if you're in an accident, call your primary care doctor, get in there, go to the non-emergency room. I don't have to go to the ER. If I'm hurt, I can go to this like immediate clinic and, see a doctor there. It may not be mine, but just go. And this fifth one, this is the most troubling of all.
It is.
What he's talking about is companies will reach out. And we've had a client say, well, Mr. Lopez, this provider said, if I don't come with them in their car, then they're going to tell my insurance company I'm not getting treatment. So they picked me up and they gave me treatment. That is not how this works. That is not how the world works. Doctors aren't picking up people in their cars. They're not sending runners. What happens is a lot of automobile insurance policies have what's called med pay. There's 5,000 that could be greater, but if these providers, they can get some money and they know that if there's insurance involved on either side, they're likely going to get paid $5,000, $10,000. And, they might be working with, what I would call bad personal injury attorneys. And, so the big telltale signs are they're coming to you, they're contacting you, oh, come get treatment. Your insurance company's going to take care of it. We'll pick you up. If they're just reaching out to you, that's a giant red flag. And then if you get there and they're like, well, you got to call this attorney. This is the attorney we like working with. This is the attorney. Call them. Or even if the attorney's there, hey, right here, just happen to be by, sign right here. That's a giant red flag. Double red flags going out everywhere. And what that really means, and those type cases, and it's really a disservice to legitimately injured people. If those red flags are flying, that's a pretty good indication. The only people that are going to be compensated for your injury are the medical provider and the attorney. Don't fall for those red flags. Jamison, anything I said incorrect? Anything you want to clarify?
No, everything you said is absolutely correct. And you and I laugh about, we make some jokes about these sketchy providers, but part of us doesn't want to laugh. We want to cry or get angry because there are so many innocent people who are victims and hurt, who have their cases ruined because they don't see the red flags. And so if your doctor's office is pushing you to an attorney, if your doctor's office really has any legal knowledge, if they tell you anything like, well, this is what you need to do for your case, I mean, that's not normal, right? So just use your common sense. And if they're seem more interested in your case than they are in your treatment, there's a reason for that. And you mentioned the medical payment, and we could go on for an hour about all the insurance details, but people don't realize often what medical payments coverage is, and that pays your medical bills through your own insurance policy, sometimes regardless of fault. So even if you cause the accident yourself, you can get med pay to pay your medical bills. But it's one of the easier ways to get money. Our health insurance, our health system's very complicated, as everyone knows, and the insurance aspect of that's very complicated. And one of the easiest ways these providers get money is through when they know there's medical payments coverage. But if you're in that situation, you'll find out very fast whether or not the provider is interested in helping you or is interested in making money from your case. If it turns out that you don't have that coverage, if it turns out that there's no insurance coverage at all, you'll find very quickly that these medical providers stop treatment because now they know there's not going to be any money in your case. And so yeah, it's really unfortunate. There's so many people every month, at least once a month, I come across a client who has been victimized by these sketchy providers, and it's not their fault because they didn't understand what was going on, and they heard that the insurance company wants them to go to the medical provider, so they went. But like many things in life, if it seems too good to be true, if it just doesn't match up, something smells, look further, because it's not legit. And when you're injured, the law says you're entitled to compensation, and there's just no reason to do anything other than to go to your primary care physician, and again, talk to an attorney.
Jamison, we talked a lot about injury stuff, but I want to kind of circle back to you. Why did you become an attorney?
On some level, I think I've always wanted to be an attorney. I'm not going to go into politics, but when I was like 10 years old, my mom says that I was watching the presidential conventions. I was a weird 10-year-old kid. And she asked me if I wanted to be president, but I said, no, I wouldn't mind being governor. So I've always had an interest in law, in public service. And then my grandfather was a teacher, taught history and government, and I followed in those footsteps, his footsteps initially, and then realized I wasn't meant to be a teacher for my whole life, and then ended up going to law school. But it's helped me because I'm able to help people as a teacher. It was my goal to help kids and families. As an attorney, it's really the same goal, and it allows me to use my skills and intellect differently. I just am drawn to the fight and having a job that's active. I drove a forklift for a while, 23 years ago, something like that, for a seed company. And I remember when I worked then, thinking that for the first few weeks, oh, this is nice, because I went home without work to do, essentially, right? You don't take the forklift home with you. But over time, I realized that I want to do something where I do take home with me, work home with me. And you know how it is, Mark. I mean, we never stop thinking. We're driving, you're in line at an amusement park and thinking about some strategy, or you observe something and you get an idea. You know what? I can use that strategy with this witness at trial, and having that type of purpose in life, it's great. I mean, I love the profession of law. I know attorneys were often the butt of jokes, and sometimes we deserve that. A few times we don't, but I love attorneys, and the respect that the profession has, that we have for each other, and that we're all working, even our opponents, they are working to make society better. And that's something I'm very proud of.
Jamison, what is your favorite part of being an attorney?
My favorite part of being an attorney, I would say it's when I get up in the morning and I have something to do. I have there's something important I need to accomplish. Somebody needs something from me, and that really is important, because when you have a job that you don't like, or a career you don't like, it just affects every aspect of your life. It affects your friendships, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, everything. And so knowing that, and then that there's always something important to do that day, and that's very valuable to me.
Jamison, what is your ideal vacation?
Well, I'd say it's probably ones that we've done. We tend to combine amusement parks with history and nature. We've done that several times, and didn't even realize it until recently that when I plan a vacation, I get excited planning vacations and putting something in that's a favorite for each of my kids and my wife. But we tend to do that. I mean, last year we went to Minnesota and Iowa. The kids are very excited and have wanted to go, for a while. But we went up and saw where the Mississippi River begins. We went to 2 different theme parks, the Mall of America theme park, and then swung down through Iowa to hit Adventureland, which has a few cool roller coasters that my daughter adores. So I think if you can combine those types of things, and I know that everybody in my family has something that they love, and then I always throw in something that's an element of history, a museum or something along those lines. Then I think it's a great vacation. Everybody got something they loved, and we all spent time together.
I feel like if we were at the Magic Kingdom, I'd be like, hey, let's go to the Dwarf Mine Train. And you'd be like, no, I want to go to the Hall of Presidents. We might have to split up if we went that way. Just keeping that in mind. This history and amusement park. What a combination that is. That's a teacher and a lawyer married together like that. I love it. Jamison, we are so excited to have you with us. And anyone has any questions, anyone wants to send a message to us, just reach out. Jamison is super nice, easy to talk to. That's it. You have a great day. Thanks for joining us, Jamison.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for everybody for watching.